In this video, I'm going to discuss how to create the executable code for WAGO's new CP an HMI with integrated PLC functionality. I will be utilizing the IEC 61131 programming tool, also known as CODESYS. This is the same programming tool used to program WAGO's 750 series I/O system. This allows you to use one software package for both, which enables easier programming and the elimination of duplicated work. So let's get started. So here you can see this is the CODESYS tool, again typically used with the I/O system as well. To start a new project, again you come up here and you could select either File New, or you can just come over here and select a new project to start. Not worried about saving anything here. Okay, now I'm going to select the WAGO device, and you can see here I'm working with the 10.4 inch CP, and again there's things in here that you can modify and change with regards to memory layout, network functionality. We're going to go into an exercise with that later where we use network variables and visualizations and so forth. So you can see the different things again in here that you can change, just like with the standard I/O system. Select OK, and then from here we can start generating our code. So at first what we're going to do is we'll have a ladder program that's going to call a structured text function block. So very similar to something you've seen before with one of our videos. Again, trying to show you that you can do the same programming with the CPTVs that you can do with our standard I/O system. So this first one, again, just gets you oriented with the software tool and the hardware and all. So again, just going to show you something you've probably seen somewhat before with generating function blocks or creating function blocks and things of that nature. So from here, I can come in and right key click in the POU field, add object. Again, we'll create just a simple function block here. Call this lamp underscore FB. We're going to use structured text. Okay, and now we can start generating our code. And so, here I'm just going to declare a quick variable. And actually this is going to be a timer on delay function block. Okay, now that I have my timer on delay in here, I'm going to also add just a couple of variables in here just to show you some examples of some of the things that you can do with regards to using different tools and functions within the CODESYS tool itself. Alright, and we'll just call this R2. Again, just real quick, just want to display some information for you. Alright, so then when I'm ready to use the lamp flasher or any of these variables, you can see you can either declare as you go with the variables or go ahead and declare some variables up top here. Then when I come into the actual edit field, I can use the F2 function. So I'm going to go ahead and use F2, and this is the input assistant. And you can see there's several things that we can bring up here. Structured text operators, you can see them here, and or things of that nature. And also you can see different things here like standard functions brought in by the standard library. Local variables, you can see now the variables that I've created up top here. If I declared some global variables, system variables if I have some tied directly to inputs, outputs kind of thing, and function blocks and so forth. So this input assistant can be very useful in pulling in variables, the names themselves, what I want to tag here, what variable I want to use in this place of the actual code and so forth. So again, this can be very useful throughout your project. And we'll take a look at this again when we get into the ladder program real quick. But again, here I just wanted to pull in my lamp flasher timer on delay. You can see here now the full structure and everything. I could then, of course, put in my And we'll just put a time value here in for our preset time. And we can get rid of the rest of this. Alright, and just like with the other system, if you wanted to put in a comment line before or after, you would simply open parentheses, asterisk, put in your comment, asterisk, close parentheses, and then you would be finished with that. Alright, and just put a little something in here. By the way, you will also notice that CODESYS will autocorrect. You can see the case, for example, in this case statement was corrected. Lamp status is going to be an integer value, and it is also going to be an input into the function block we're creating. After that, we'll just put in some of the values here. Lamp will be false. Lamp is going to be a boolean, and it is also going to be an output to the function block. And just continuing on here, will be true. And then lastly, in this line, lamp is going to follow that lamp flasher elapsed time. So the same lamp flasher function block up here, the timer on delay that we're utilizing, we'll be looking at that elapsed time as well. And we're just going to put in here that when that value is greater than 1 second, an on-off state, basically flashing on and off at a 1 second rate. Once this is finished, put a quick little else statement in here. Lamp to false, and then end our case. Alright, so just a timer on delay in here, and then we're setting conditions here for lamp status, values of either 0, 1, or 2. 0, lamp will be false, 1, lamp will be true, and then 2, the integer value of 2, then it'll follow that lamp flasher elapsed time, or .et. Anything other than this, or any one of these values, is entered into the function block, and the lamp will just be false. Okay, so again, just again trying to illustrate how easy it is to program using the same tool. We can come in here and now create the code with a ladder program. And so what we're going to do is we're going to call this function block that was created in structure text, and we're going to call it in a ladder program. So from here, I want to, in this case, just simply drop in a contact here. We'll call this PB1 for a push button. It's going to be a boolean input. And then we're going to call the function block. So from here, I can right key click and put a box with a label in, or I can also come up here and you'll see this box with a label on the screen. So now, just like before in structured text, in this ladder program, I'm going to use the input assistant again. So once again, I'm going to use F2, and now I can see a list again of standard functions, user-defined functions if I created any. You can see standard function blocks, for example, so timers, triggers, things of that nature. And this information is coming from the library manager itself as well, where as I add certain library files that have function blocks, functions, other programs, pre-written things either within CODESYS or something that I've created and created my own libraries, I can incorporate them in and then call it up using the F2 function to view them. So in here, what we're looking for in this case, of course, is the user-defined function block that I've created in the structured text format here, and now I'm going to call that in the ladder program. But again, the F2 function input assistant allows me to view function blocks I've created, function blocks from library files, or functions, or other programs, or it could be just a list of variables once again. So again, in this case, I'm just going to select OK and then move on from here. And now I can see this here because it is a function block. We do have to declare an instance of it. So you can see lamp1 is going to be an instance of my lamp underscore FB function block. This will be a status input. Lamp status was an integer. That should also be an integer. I could type that in or simply select integer from the data type list. Okay. And then here this will be just my lamp as the output on the function block. This will be a boolean and a variable as well. Now here we could also, of course, declare this as a global variable here, for example. May want to do that depending on what we want to do as far as reading and writing the data. I can come up here, for example, and change this status integer to a global variable as well, as opposed to just a local variable within the POU. So there's different things in here, obviously, that we can do with regards to that. Now, once this is finished, we have our function block created, calling in a ladder, utilizing two different programming languages, structured text and ladder. Now I can create a visualization. Perhaps this push button input is coming from another device, whatever the case may be. Maybe we just want to use it, obviously, as the input into the HMI for the operator. From here, then, we would just come in and go to our Visualizations tab under here on the lower left side. Okay, so now we're going to come into Visualizations, right-key click, Add Object. And once again, we're going to call this PLC underscore Visu. Again, the home page or main page for the project. And just like you have a PLC underscore PRG back in your code itself as your main routine, you also have to have a PLC underscore Visu as your main or home screen. After this, you can call them whatever you want, create buttons to toggle back and forth from one screen to another and so forth. But again, you can see here we have this main PLC underscore Visu that we're going to create. So we could just make a single screen with this for the operator interface. We could have a home screen where we can bring in corporate image files and things like that, that would have other buttons leading to other pages and links to other control panel screens. For example, we could use this bitmap here, and we could pull in and draw out a little bitmap file here and select something like the Perspecto panel here and lay this out, and then have a small text box, for example, or a box, just a normal box we could put in, and call this Perspecto and CP TV. Okay, and of course we could come in here and change different things like the font size. So here we have the font. We can make it bold, 14 for example, and okay. And then off to the right, if we choose, we could have buttons that would lead to other screens. So for example, if I want to put a button in here, that would lead to another link or screen that I've created. So let's say system status, for example. Let's call it that, and okay. So now I'm going to have a button that's going to lead to another screen that I could use to view what the system status is, and could be monitoring, engine monitoring, trending tables, whatever the case may be. And then from here, now if I wanted to, I'm going to right key click, add another object, and we'll call this lamp 1, for example. And now we can create another visualization. Just put a simple like template here for a nameplate. And call this pilot light 1. Put a color in the background so we can see it easier. Okay. And then of course come in here, change the position, font, and the size. Okay, and now I'm just going to put a little indicator light in here for us to look at. Double click on that. We could put text in here, but in this case I'm just going to have it change color from one state to another. So our off state and then our alarm state, two different colors. And then of course I have to tell it what is going to toggle that on and off. So I would go to variables, change color, and I'd look for, in this case, my lamp. Alright, and then I can come in here, draw a little box for an input. Again, our text, this will be status. %s, we could use %d, %i as well for like an integer value, %f for float. Again, some of this we'll get into in later videos illustrating this. Now that I've decided what was going to be placed in here, I could put a color in here, again to make it easier to view, and then what value we're going to actually write to as well and read. So first in variables, I'm going to go to text display and show or tag it to a specific variable and display that information, in this case the status integer. And then here I'm going to go to input, text input, a variable text display, and I can also set a minimum and maximum range, so not only in the code does it limit the actual inputs that are valid entries, but these values here now are saying this is minimum maximum range. So if someone tried to actually enter a value other than 0, 1, or 2, it will not accept that value. You couldn't even enter it in. So okay, I'll put another little button in here, and we'll just call this PB1. And of course then we need to toggle or tap a variable. In this case we're going to toggle a variable. Again, use F2, and we're going to find that PB1. Okay. And one last button, because not only do we want to get to this screen, but obviously we want to go back to our main or home screen. So you can call this main, for example. And then what do we want to do? We want to zoom to Visu. So we want to, when we click on this button, we're going to go back to another visualization we've created, or go to, and then F2, find the visualization we want to go to, and then you can see PLC_Visu, which is our home screen. Alright? Or our main screen. So you can see this here now. Okay, and now that we're at the main screen, we want to ensure that we have the correct setup with regards to this button as well that we created. So we want to make sure that we go to the visualization that we created, the lamp 1 for example. So F2, lamp 1, and now we'll toggle back and forth, or we can toggle back and forth between the two screens, our home screen and then of course the actual system status screen, if you will. Alright, so with that being said, we want to make sure that at this point everything's correct. So we're going to do a project, rebuild all, for our code and our visualizations. You can see here we have 0 errors, 0 warnings. Of course, that's what we want to see. Okay, once we build the project and everything seems to be in order, 0 errors, 0 warnings, what we want to do now is make sure that we call the appropriate main routine and subroutine. So we're going to go to our resources tab, to the task configurator. We're going to right key click, append task. You see new task pops up as the name. We can call this PLC, for example. We can change the priority. You can see from 0 to 31. Can be based on time, freewheeling, triggered by event. This one we'll just use based on time. Every 20 milliseconds, for example. We're going to call the main routine. And now we can come back to this task that we've set up, right key click, append program call, and then call that main routine. And now that'll execute, as I said, every 20 milliseconds. So we can see here again, everything should be configured correctly.
Now we want to actually connect to the device. So we're going to go to Online, Communication Parameters. We may have the device already configured here, but if not, we can always select a new communication channel, and we can call it basically just the IP address. And at this point, again, I'm just naming the communication channel. But here under this local host with this value, I'm going to actually put in the IP address itself. Okay. And now I want to log into the device. So now I'm going to log in. You can see here that we're able to connect. There is no program on the controller. Yes. We've loaded the program on there. We can see now. We get F5 to run the program. And we can see, for example, I'll show you first here with the CODESYS, and then I'll show you the actual screen running. So I'm going to hit PV1. See PV1, its status has changed here, and then we can go to the visualizations and see this change here as well. Again, still looking at it in CODESYS. I'm going to change the status value on the panel itself, and then you should see it update over here. And now we can see the actual lamp starting to flash with our status value changing, and we're on our visualization here. If I come in again, I'm going to change that value. You can see it changes here. So this is viewing it from CODESYS, and now we want to view it actually running from the CPTV panel. Okay, now we can see this is the actual panel itself, the Perspecto CPTV, and the program that we just wrote. Again, real quick, just to illustrate writing the code, creating the visualizations. Here's your main screen with your system status button. Once you select that, you can see again, here's the push button activation here, our toggling back to the main screen, again back to system status, and now I can change the status value and see now again the program executing on the control panel. Again, there's no other devices, I/O system or anything like that attached to the system right now. It's just simply running its own executable code. We'll get into later networking with other devices such as WAGO I/O system using Modbus, or something that we call network variables, where we create a data pool and so forth, and various other things you can do from a code standpoint. But as I said, at this point, I just want to show you now this is the actual panel itself running the executable code. We looked at it just a moment ago from the CODESYS standpoint.
Hopefully you found this video informative. The Perspecto CPTV is an integrated HMI and PLC in one powerful device. Utilizing the CODESYS programming tool, which again is the same tool used for the WAGO 750 series I/O system, you can see the benefits of having one software package, making programming easier, increasing design flexibility, and reducing engineering time. Thank you.